a few years ago, not too long. Remember, I don't know if you remember when the alpha male podcast and stuff were a really big thing, like the Tate brothers and Myron and Sneeko. I don't know how much of a big deal is it now, and I wouldn't watch it. Sometimes they make valid points. If I'll be going through my feed, you scroll through your feed and you see stuff and I'll be watching it. But the one thing these individuals would always talk about when they get on here, and first of all, I hated watching them because it goes back to that idea of extremism, and it just feels like it was for the purpose of entertainment, and it felt like really nobody got anywhere. Like, you have discussions to grow as individuals, so your views can be reshaped, or you can, hopefully both of you guys are reshaping your viewpoints, or at least coming to an understanding of why that person feels the way they feels or believes what they believes. And I just felt like, and sometimes I'd watch them just like, this is not happening. I'm just like, next short, please, next reel, please, because it was just not happening. But the one thing that these individuals would talk about was they would discuss how the single father household is much more successful compared to a single mother household. And they would always say that, but there would never be a definitive of why. Why are they so much more better off, children so much more better off than in a father household than in a mother household. And especially so I did research. I was like, and when I do research, I be looking into things. I be looking at scholarly articles, peer-reviewed articles, not just, I type it into the Google search and I get something. That's not research. But the little bit of research that I did do, there was not anything that coherently makes a single father household better. Actually, from what I've seen from the PewResearch.org, they actually say that single father households these males usually have less of an education and are more likely to be in poverty compared to a single mother household. And so it made me wonder and think, if that's the case, then how is it that they're so much more successful? And then I started really looking at my life and the way that my mother was treated, even though her as a single mother, and even though my father could have helped, and how everybody kind of helped him, even though he wasn't doing anything to help us. And so what I think, and I also read this in an article too, if I find it, I'll link what I found. But in one of the articles that I read, it talks about how single fathers need a community, and they need resources and support, which is the same thing that single mothers need, so it's no different. But when I read that, it kind of solidified not only what I've experienced in my life, but kind of it started to make sense that if you think about it, single fathers, I feel like when we look at single fathers and then single mothers, the way that they're both viewed is very differently. A single father is actually viewed in a much more positive light than being a single mother. Because a single father, you're usually thinking that a father's single because, most likely the woman died. It's not the same reasons of why a single mother is single. And usually we say, she needs to be more accountable. She shouldn't have been with that man if he was in domestic abuser, or if he was on drugs. And I'm going to tell you something. As a child who lived with a father who was extreme, this violence doesn't just take place over one night. This violence is not something you can just escape from. This violence is literally, you're gonna probably, there has been a time when I literally almost died. Like, it's not something you just easily escape from, because these men, I don't know much about women who are violent, but I do know something about men that are violent. They will hunt you down. Like, literally, if they will find you. I don't know what it is. I don't know what it is about men and domestic violence, but they will find you. It's hard to escape. And not only that, a lot of these women who are in these bad relationships, they're in these bad relationships because in their household, they experience very little support from their parents and neglect, and just no emotional support. And actually, my mother, she actually even said that, her whole life, she was actually just looking for somebody. And I think that a lot of times these women get with these men because they've almost in a sense experienced the same thing. But let's go back to what I was saying. But that's something that I know. But let's go back to what I was saying. So the single man is viewed in a much more positive light than a single mother. And I think because he's viewed in such much more of a positive light, he's able to almost in a sense get the support he needs from his family, especially the female individuals. And this is something that you need to remember. And I know a lot of time women try to deny the fact that I think that in reality, we, by our biology, even though we try to deny it, we are really designed to take care of children. Like, look at evolution, look at the way that tribes have always been set up. Women have always taken care of children. I mean, that's not the only thing that we're good at, and I'll get into that later. But we just need to embrace that's what we're good at. It's an instinct. Maybe that's not how it is anymore, but for me, it's an instinct. Like, I'm good with children, I love children, I want children in my life forever. That's not how all women are, but I think that it is a biological factor that we have always been trying to deny. But let me go back into what I was saying. So, the man is able, he's seen in a positive light. I think that he's able to get more female support within his family and within his community. And in education, we study child development. I wish we would study more adolescent development, but I wish we studied more on that line, but we do more along the lines of from toddler and elementary school, stuff like that. But if you can look this up, it's called Maslow's hierarchy of needs. And so at the very top is self-actualization, that the person has eventually come to the understanding of what they want to be, what they want to do, where they belong in the world. Like, it's like they have reached the ultimate enlightenment. They have gone to nirvana. But at the very bottom is the basics of what a child needs. Food, water, shelter, clothing on their back. And so we come to understand that is what the father is supposed to provide in our society. If you want to go back to the basic fundamentals of a mother and a father, the father provides the very basic fundamentals for a child to grow. And because of that, now that the single father, he's doing that, he's providing the very basic things. On the next level, literally right after that, the child needs love and emotional support. The female individuals in his family I'm not saying that he's not providing his children with love, but they are doing exactly the next step of what that child needs. A mother is supposed to be doing those things. And a lot of times too, people are like, oh, the father is so important, he needs to be in the household. I'm not saying he isn't important, he is. But when you look at people from families from the 1940s and the 1950s, I know I reference them a lot, but that's because in the United States we believe that was the golden age. So that's what I'm going to use. But if you look at two-parent households, though, just think about the two-parent household, the traditional one, the father is never really in the household. He's always at work. Who is at home with those children? The mother is. So who do you think is teaching these kids how to control their emotions? Who's giving them the emotional support? Who's giving them the social experiences? Who is taking them places and doing things for them? It's the mother. So it makes sense why single mother households are not that efficient or not that good. Because the mother, in reality, is doing two jobs. And she's not really even doing the job she's supposed to do. She can't even do it well. She's out here she's trying to provide the basic things. And she can't go to that next level for her children. The single father, though, since he's viewed in a much more positive light, is able to get the support he needs from the individuals in his family that are females, and they're able to go to that next level. Now, this is all just a thesis, because, like I said, I couldn't really find any definitive reason why. And if you can find any, and especially too when I found out they were less likely to be educated and less likely and more likely to be in poverty, it just wasn't, nothing was making sense to me. But if you can find a reason why this is the case too, then yeah. But from personal experience too, my mother was an individual. She grew up in a household, like I said, that really didn't give any support or guidance. And even with my grandparents today, even though they've kind of been in my life, I can kind of tell that they weren't individuals that really were loving, supporting. Like, I can kind of feel it. But when she was with my father, my grandmother, first of all, when my mom got pregnant, she was sent to a group home. So right then and there already shows you that my grandmother did not want to deal with that. But whenever my mother needed help, I never really felt as a child that she really got any of that help that she needed. Like, everybody in his family, for my father, I felt like no matter what, they always will and always have supported him. Even though my father's an addict and my father's been in and out of jail, whenever he gets out of jail, there's always a place for him. But when I was younger and my mother needed a place to be, I felt like they didn't really want her there, and the only reason that we were there is because it was kind of their moral obligation. You know, they believed in God and they just knew they had to do it. And also too, my father was there and they didn't want him to be on the streets. And not only that too, I felt like everybody's like, oh, you had to leave this man, you had to leave this man, you had to leave this man, he's no good for you, you need to tell him to stop. I never understood though why they couldn't give her the support and say no and tell him that he needed to leave, because it just never made any sense to me. Even today, that's why I've kind of really taken aback on not speaking with my father's family. I know I don't mean to get all personal in my life, but that was just the personal experience I have with that's part of my thesis. It's something that I've experienced from my mother being single. Even when she was with my father, she was still a single mother. But that's just the experience I have, is that I feel like in society too, it's the reason why no matter what a woman does, I just always feel like she will always be held more accountable than the man. And there's some men out here who get with women who are on drugs too, and who are alcoholics too, and who do cheat on them too. But we never say, oh, you should have took accountability and not have been with that woman who was an alcoholic, you know. And I feel like because we view, I don't know what it is and why the American society does not, then this is why the reason women became the women we have today, that are literally just like our men. I don't want to work, but that wanted to work and wanted to be independent, because we did not respect mothers. We've never respected mothers. We don't respect the idea that they need to be in the household with their children. And that's why they are almost like our fathers. We don't need two fathers. We need a mother and a father. That's why, I'm sorry, I don't mean to get angry. I don't mean to get a little bit too irrational, too illogical conversation. I'm not trying to make it go on, but like I said, that's why I think single fathers are more successful. And I just feel like we need to have respect for our mothers. Like Tupac says, but in the song Keep Your Head Up, he basically says we need to respect women and respect that they're mothers and give them a little bit more support. Now, there's some women out here, like those women, you see them on Instagram or on Facebook, whatever, they just be having kids just to get welfare. That I don't understand. Those women don't need to be respected. Respect their kids, because children don't know the situations at the end. They don't know the system that is trying to be played. But also too, I just, like, you gotta respect people, but like them as women, them as mothers, them as women, it never made any sense to me though too, why my mother too would always work. She's always worked, but the government never wanted to give her the extra help that she needed. You know, but yet we give felons like my father SNAP benefits. We give women like the individuals I've seen on these social media who just have kids, and they'll just say, they're literally saying, yeah, we're having kids just to get the help. But yet people who are out here working, like my mother, like other single mothers who've tried to escape domestic violence and stuff, or men too. I don't know too much about men, but I know there are men out there who do get beat up by their wives or by whoever. Why aren't we helping them? Why are we so backwards? Why are we not progressing? But that's all I've had to say. There's no continuing on to beat a dead horse that's already dead. I don't think there's anything else I have to say. Nothing at the moment. Nothing at the moment. Nothing at the moment. Oh, well, let me say one more thing. Before I go. When I was a child, like I've already said, I experienced domestic violence. And at one point it got really bad that I thought I was going to lose my life. My mother thought she was going to lose her life. I thought I was going to lose my life. My father was not in his right mind to understand the difference between life and death. But my mother, she did not believe in calling the police because she was so afraid that she didn't want her children to be taken away. And that night she did call the police. First of all, and I grew up not liking the police. In some sense, I still don't like the legal system because of the way that my mother was treated, and still with the idea of the single mother did not get viewed in a positive light. And this was in Texas, so you already know there is no respect there. There is no empathy, no gratitude there at all. But she called the police that night, and the only thing the officer told her was, my father had left after that, whatever had done. I don't know how it escalated to that point, but the police officer, after he was gone, the police had come, and the police officer, the only thing he told her was to put a chair in front of the doors. Put a chair in front of the door so he couldn't get in. I don't think, like I've done told you, I don't think people understand the degree of how a person that violent can get. Those chairs would have not withstood nothing. There's windows. Those windows would not have withstood anything. And I felt like in that situation is, like I've always said, why aren't you giving my mother any support, any resources to get out of that situation? We don't understand the situation single mothers go through. Now, some single mothers put themselves they're out here there are women out here who are just loosey-gooseys doing whatever they want to do with men. But there's some women out here who were in bad situations as when they were children, and they're just trying to escape that situation, and they're just trying to make a life for themselves, a American dream life for themselves. And I just understood why nobody could ever just help, give her the resources. She's worked. My mother's always worked. She never really asked for any handout, but she just wants a little bit more extra help. She just wanted the extra help. But that's all I have to say about this. Like I said, I don't want to beat a dead horse with a dead horse. I don't want to beat a dead horse that's already dead. But just remember that I think that single fathers are more successful because they're seen in a positive light, and that the female individuals in their community and their family or whatever are able to go beyond that extra step in the hierarchy of needs. And through my personal experience and from what I've seen, from what I've observed, from what I've researched, I think that is somewhat the case. And if you can find any other definitive reasons why this is the case, please tell me, because I always like to learn and grow. So please tell me.